Welcome to Cozy Reading Club, the podcast where we read the book and tell you about it so you don't have to.
It's great to be back with you all.
And welcome back for our final Cozy Reading Club. Well, for now anyway. This is podcast 10, Revenge, Funerals, and Peace.
And today, we're diving into the very end of Homer's Iliad books 17 right through to 24, the big finale.
It really is. And hard to believe we're here already. So last time, just to recap, things were looking pretty grim for the Greeks, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely grim. Hector was on a roll. He'd pushed the Achaeans back, and the real devastating blow, of course. Patroclus was dead, killed by Hector, and Hector had stripped him of Achilles' own magnificent armor, a huge symbolic victory for the Trojans.
Exactly. The momentum had completely shifted. So for this final deep dive, we really want to unpack how Homer wraps this all up. We're looking at, the raw power of revenge.
Which is huge in these books.
Definitely. And also the significance of funerals, how they honored the dead back then.
Crucial rituals.
And finally, this idea of peace, maybe fragile peace, but peace nonetheless that sort of emerges from all this suffering. Okay, so book 17, Patroclus is down. What happens immediately?
Well, it kicks off instantly.
Yeah.
A really ferocious fight erupts right there over Patroclus's body.
Just chaos.
Complete chaos. You've got his comrades, Menelaus and Meriones especially, showing just incredible bravery. They're literally fighting tooth and nail to stop the Trojans from dragging the body away.
And Hector's right in the thick of it, I assume, trying to get the body and that armor.
Oh, absolutely. Hector is desperate to not just keep the armor he already stripped, but to, mutilate the body, display it. It's brutal. He sees taking the corpse as the ultimate prize, the final insult.
Wow. And Homer brings the gods into this scrum, too, doesn't he?
He does. It's fascinating. Apollo swoops in to strengthen Hector, gives him that extra edge, But then, on the other side, you've got Athena firing up the Greeks, urging them on.
So it's like this divine tug-of-war happening right over the battlefield.
Exactly. It really underscores how high the stakes are, even for the gods. They're deeply invested.
And amidst all this, what about Achilles' famous horses, the immortal ones?
Ah, yes. Automedon, the charioteer. He manages a really crucial move. He gets Achilles' divine horses away from the worst of the fighting.
Smart move.
Very. Because these aren't just animals, right? They're immortal, gifts from the gods. And later, there's this incredibly moving moment where the horses themselves are shown grieving for Patroclus, weeping.
Immortal horses weeping. That's powerful imagery.
It really is. Homer says even Zeus, the king of the gods, looks down and pities them. And Zeus actually covers Patroclus's body in darkness, sort of a divine protection.
Wow. So even nature, or the divine extension of it, feels this loss.
Precisely. It shows just how profound Patroclus's death is. And in that God-sent darkness, Ajax the Greater lets out this amazing prayer. Just raw desperation, asking Zeus for light, if only to die in.
Gives you chills. So how do they finally get the body back?
Well, it's a huge struggle. Menelaus manages to send Antilochus, Nestor's son, running back to tell Achilles the terrible news.
Oh boy, that's a message no one wants to deliver.
Absolutely not. And while Antilochus is running, Menelaus, Meriones, and both Ajaxes, they fight like cornered lions, slowly, painstakingly carrying Patroclus's body back towards the ship.
Inch by inch, I imagine.
Pretty much. They finally make it back as evening falls. A small victory, maybe, but they save the body from desecration. For now.
Which leads us straight into book 18.
Yeah.
And Achilles finding out.
Yeah. And Achilles' reaction is volcanic. It's not just sorrow. Homer describes him pouring dirt over himself, tearing his hair. It's this primal howl of grief and almost immediately this white-hot rage.
Aimed squarely at Hector.
Solely at Hector. He vows revenge. That becomes his entire focus. Everything else just falls away.
And his mother? Thetis, the sea goddess, she hears this.
She does. She comes up from the sea depths with her nymphs, and she's just heartbroken seeing her son in such agony. She knows what's coming.
And she knows his old armor is gone, worn by Hector.
Exactly, which is the crucial problem. He can't fight without armor. So Thetis immediately goes to Olympus, to Hephaestus, the smith god.
To get a new set made.
The best set ever made. And Hephaestus owes Thetis a favor, so he agrees. Homer then spends a huge chunk of Book 18 describing the creation of this new armor, especially the shield.
Ah, the famous shield of Achilles. What's so special about
Oh, it's incredible. Hephaestus doesn't just make a functional shield, he makes a work of art. He depicts, the entire world on it.
The entire world, literally.
Well, symbolically.
Yeah.
He shows scenes of peacetime cities with weddings, markets, farmers plowing fields, vineyards, dancing, just everyday life,
Yeah.
But then he also shows scenes of war, a city under siege, ambushes, battles. And he includes the earth, the sky, the sea, the sun, the moon, constellations. It's the cosmos in miniature.
Wow. So peace and war, life in the universe, all on one shield.
Exactly. And the real kicker, the thing to think about, is the contrast, right? Here's this shield bursting with images of order, community, life.
And Achilles is about to take it into the heart of utter chaos and destruction, fueled by grief and vengeance.
Precisely. The shield is almost like a reminder of everything that's at stake, everything that war destroys. It's an incredibly layered piece of description.
So Book 19, Thetis delivers the new gear. How does Achilles react?
The armor is dazzling, terrifyingly beautiful. Homer says the Myrmidons, Achilles' own men, can merely look at it. But Achilles, it just fuels his fire. It's like the final piece clicking into place. He's ready.
And Agamemnon, is there like a final making up?
There is. Agamemnon makes a public apology, sort of blames divine madness, and formally hands back Briseis, along with tons of gifts. He does try to reconcile.
And Achilles accepts?
He accepts, but he's almost dismissive. Like, yeah, okay, fine, but let's get to the fighting. His mind is laser focused on one thing. Hector.
Still hasn't eaten or anything?
Nope. He refuses all food and drink, says he won't taste anything until Hector is dead and Patroclus is avenged. His grief is still that raw.
How does he even function?
Well, the gods step in again. Athena secretly feeds him ambrosia, nectar, divine food, just to keep his strength up. It shows he's almost beyond normal human needs at this point.
Driven by pure will and divine snacks.
Pretty much. And then he lets out this earth-shattering war cry. It terrifies the Trojans. They know the real Achilles is back.
The storm is about to break. Okay, Book 20. Battle commences.
And how? This is where things get really wild because Zeus lifts his previous ban and basically says, okay, gods, pick your sides, have at it.
Seriously, the gods just join the fight directly.
Yep. It becomes this insane melee. You have Hera, Athena, Poseidon, Hephaestus backing the Greeks, and Apollo, Ares, Artemis, Leto, Scamander, the river god. They're backing the Trojans. Gods fighting gods, right alongside the mortals.
That must have been spectacular chaos.
Absolutely. Homer describes gods clashing, the earth shaking. It's total cosmic warfare layered onto the human battle.
And Achilles in the middle of all this.
He's unstoppable, a force of nature unleashed. He just carves through the Trojan ranks, absolutely relentless. The terror he inspires is, well, palpable.
Anyone stand up to him.
Aeneas tries, spurred on by Apollo, but Poseidon actually intervenes to save Aeneas, whisking him away because he's fated to survive and lead the Trojans later. Even Hector is warned by Apollo to avoid Achilles for now.
So Achilles is basically mowing everyone down.
Pretty much. Which leads us into Book 21 and maybe one of the strangest battles in the Iliad.
Stranger than gods fighting.
Well, yeah, because Achilles fights a river.
He fights the river. How does that work?
He kills so many Trojans, just relentlessly driving them back, that he pushes a huge number into the river Scamander. He leaps in after them and keeps slaughtering them in the water.
Okay.
The river god, Scamander, gets seriously angry. His waters are choked with corpses, clogged with blood. He rises up and tells Achilles to stop polluting his channel.
And Achilles tells him.
Achilles basically tells him to get lost. He won't stop until the Trojans are beaten. So the river god attacks him, tries to drown him with huge waves and currents.
You're kidding. Achilles versus a river god.
It's happening. Achilles is actually struggling, about to be overwhelmed, when Hera calls on Hephaestus for help.
The fire god versus the water god.
Exactly. Hephaestus unleashes this immense fire, boiling the river, scorching the plains, burning the corpses. He literally forces Scamander to back down. It's this incredible elemental clash.
Wow. Homer doesn't hold back, does he?
Not at all. It shows Achilles' fury is so great, it's disrupting the natural order itself, provoking the elements.
Okay, so after battling gods and rivers.
Yeah.
Has to be Hector next, right? Book 22.
Book 22. This is it. The climax we've been building towards.
Yeah.
The remaining Trojans flee back into the city, but Hector stays outside the gates, alone.
Why? Why wouldn't he go inside to safety?
Pride. Shame. A sense of duty. He feels responsible for the losses after ignoring advice earlier. His parents, King Priam and Queen Hecuba, are on the walls, weeping, begging him to come inside. Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. You see Hector's internal struggle. He knows facing Achilles is likely death, but his honor won't let him retreat. He feels trapped by his own heroic code.
So he stands his ground, and Achilles arrives.
Achilles arrives, blazing in his new armor, and for a moment, just a moment, Hector's nerve breaks. He turns and runs.
He runs, Hector the Brave.
He does. And Achilles chases him. This is that incredibly famous scene. They run 3 times around the entire city of Troy. The armies, the parents, the gods, everyone watching this desperate chase.
3 times around the city. The tension must be unbearable.
Absolutely. And up on Olympus, Zeus pulls out his golden scales. He weighs the fates of Hector and Achilles. Hector's side sinks down. His time has come. It's fated.
So the chase ends. How?
Athena intervenes. Deception, again. She appears to Hector in the form of his brother, Deiphobus, and tells him they'll face Achilles together.
Oh, that's cruel. It is. But it works. Hector stops, encouraged, thinking he has backup. He turns to face Achilles. They exchange words. Hector tries to make a pact about respecting the loser's body.
Which Achilles refuses, I bet.
Instantly. He's still burning with rage for Patroclus. Then they fight. It's a fierce duel, but Achilles knows the weak spot in his old armor, the armor Hector is now wearing.
The neck opening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He waits for his opening, lunges, and drives his spear through Hector's neck. A fatal blow.
Hector's dying words.
He pleads again, begs Achilles, by his own parents, not to let the dogs devour his body, but to return it to Troy for ransom.
And Achilles.
Achilles is utterly ruthless.
Yeah.
He basically says he wishes he could carve up Hector's flesh and eat it raw himself. He refuses the plea completely.
Brutal. Just absolutely brutal.
And it gets worse. As Hector dies, the other Greeks run up and stab his corpse. And then Achilles commits his most shocking act. He pierces Hector's ankles, threads leather straps through them, and ties the body to the back of his chariot, and drags Hector's corpse in the dust back towards the Greek ships, right in front of his horrified parents on the walls.
That's desecration. It's horrifying.
It's one of the most disturbing moments in the Iliad. It shows how grief and rage have completely consumed Achilles, stripping away his humanity, at least for a time. It's the terrible low point of revenge.
For sure. Is that the end? Just darkness and brutality?
Not quite. The narrative shifts in Book 23. The focus turns back to Patroclus. Achilles needs to conduct the funeral rites.
Right. The funeral. How does that go?
It's elaborate. A massive funeral pyre, sacrifices of animals, and, grimly, Achilles sacrifices 12 Trojan captives on the pyre too, fulfilling an earlier vow made in anger.
Still vengeful, then?
Still deeply vengeful, yes. But after the cremation, he organizes grand funeral games in Patroclus' honor.
Games. Like athletic contests.
Exactly. Chariot racing, boxing, wrestling, foot races, spear throwing, archery, discus, all the major events. He offers magnificent prizes. It's a way of honoring his friend, channeling grief into ritual, and maybe reaffirming social bonds.
A different kind of processing the grief, maybe. A communal way.
Perhaps. It's a complex mix of mourning, honor, and Achilles reasserting his leadership, even in grief. Homer details the contests, the winners, the squabbles over prizes. It's a slice of their culture amidst the war.
Okay, so Patroclus is honored, but Hector's body is still being abused.
Achilles continues to drag Hector's body around Patroclus' tomb every day. But the gods are starting to feel enough is enough. Apollo protects the body from decay and damage. Most gods pity Hector, and they start debating.
Which leads us to the final book, 24, The Possibility of Peace.
Exactly. Book 24 is really about finding some measure of humanity again. Zeus decides Hector's body must be returned. He sends the goddess Iris to tell Priam, Hector's father, to go to Achilles' camp with ransom.
He sends Priam, an old man, into the camp of the man who killed his son and is desecrating his body. That's insane.
It seems insane. Hecuba, his wife, certainly thinks so. But Zeus promises him divine protection, sending Hermes to guide him secretly. At the same time, Zeus sends Thetis to Achilles, telling him to accept the ransom and give back the body.
So the gods are actively orchestrating this resolution.
They are. And Priam's journey is just incredibly brave and moving. He loads a wagon with treasures and, guided by Hermes in disguise, makes his way through the night right into Achilles' hut.
Just walks in. How does Achilles react?
Achilles is stunned. Priam goes straight to him, clasps his knees, the traditional posture of a suppliant, kisses Achilles' hands.
The hands that killed his sons.
The very hands. And then Priam makes this incredibly powerful speech. He doesn't just offer ransom. He appeals to Achilles' own experience. He says, "Remember your own father, Achilles. Think of him, old and waiting for news of you, and pity me, who has lost so many sons, including my greatest." He appeals to their shared humanity, their shared vulnerability as mortal men subject to grief.
Wow. How does Achilles respond to that?
It breaks through. Achilles is deeply moved. He sees his own father in Priam. He thinks of his own mortality, his own grief for Patroclus. They weep together, Achilles for Patroclus and his father, Priam for Hector.
A moment of shared grief, then, between killer and father.
An extraordinary moment of empathy. Achilles lifts Priam up, accepts the ransom, and agrees to return Hector's body. He even orders his maids to wash and anoint the body, treating it with respect now.
A complete turnaround from the rage before.
It really is. He offers Priam food and a place to rest safely. They even talk, sharing a meal. And crucially, Achilles asks Priam how many days he needs for Hector's funeral.
And Priam asks for?
12 days. 9 for mourning and preparing the pyre, 1 for the burning, 1 for building the tomb, and the 12th for a feast. And Achilles agrees. He promises a truce for 12 days. No fighting.
A truce. Actual peace, even if temporary.
A temporary, fragile peace, yes. Priam returns to Troy with Hector's body. The city erupts in mourning. Andromache, Hecuba, Helen, they all give these heart-wrenching laments over Hector.
And the Iliad ends.
It ends with the funeral of Hector. The Trojans perform the rites, build his tomb. The final line is something like, "Thus they buried Hector, tamer of horses." It's solemn, sorrowful, but also brings a sense of closure. The greatest hero of Troy has been honored.
So we end not with the fall of Troy, but with a funeral and a truce.
Exactly. Revenge has burned itself out, at least in Achilles. The importance of honoring the dead has been reasserted. And there's this moment of compassion and peace brokered by shared human suffering.
So as our Cozy Reading Club concludes its exploration of these books of the Iliad with you, what do you think of this ending?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Does the return of Hector's body truly signify a lasting peace? Or is it just, a pause, a temporary respite in what feels like an endless cycle of violence?
And what about Achilles? Does that final act of compassion mean he's truly changed? What does it suggest about finding humanity even in the middle of the absolute horrors of war?
Lots to think about there. What lasting impact did these final events have?
Those are crucial questions for you to consider as we wrap up this part of our deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey through the Iliad. This has been Cozy Reading Club.
This was Cozy Reading Club, the podcast where we read the book and tell you about it so you don't have to. If you like this series, we invite you to take a look at other series in our podcast and leave a nice review on the platform you are listening this on.